Hi there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Josh Mansfield, a teacher with the Demon, and with me is Nathan Fox, one of the founders of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast Thinking LSAT. Nate, today our email comes from Amelia, and the subject is test day disappointment.
Amelia says, "Hey, Demon, I just got my April LSAT score back and I am disappointed. I've been studying since September of 2024 and switched to the Demon in January. When I decided to move my test from February to April, by the time April came around, I felt ready. My PTs weren't perfect, but they were in a range I would have been perfectly fine with for my first test, which is the mid 160s. And I do want to just kind of stop you right there, Amelia. Nobody ever said that your test scores have to be perfect. We're not actually expecting you to get 180, 180, 180, 180, 180. That would be what literal perfection would look like.
Yeah.
We are not expecting you to do that. But this idea that it's okay to take your first test with a lower range, what? Why? What school are you trying to go to? What score do you need to get not only into that school, but the right kind of discount? Remember that, only 18% of law students in the United States pay full price. 82% of law students in the United States are getting a discount. That discount can include 100% and even go over 100%. And so it is a critically important test, and you just shouldn't be taking the test until you're happy with your practice test range. So I think you set yourself up for failure here going in with this idea that like, oh, well, it's just my first one. Josh, you've got something on your mind?
Yeah, there's two things I could see being here with that idea of perfect. If she's saying, I want my score to be a 165, my practice tests were a 160 to a 164, I chose to sign up. Okay. Like, that's at the high end. You had another month to study. Like, if I had a student tell me that in class, I probably would not have yelled at them for signing up at that point, right? Their practice tests were close to that 165. They thought they could get 1 to 2 more points during that month after registration. Fine. If you're saying I'm happy with 165 for this test, but I'm not applying till I get a 170, waste of an attempt. Like, that's one why, like, don't take that. Your standard should be your standard.
If you go on here, I mean, there's a couple things Amelia's doing wrong, but let me read the rest of her email and then we'll dunk on her for the rest of these things. Which, by the way, thank you for writing in, Amelia. I mean, we're not trying to be mean. We really want to just answer your questions and help you as much as we can. Amelia says, I scored a 156, which is about 10 points lower than my normal PTs. And again, her range was in the mid 160s at this time.
Okay.
So she scores a 156, which is about 10 points lower than, I guess, the middle of her range, but it certainly wasn't 10 points lower than the bottom of her range. If her range, if she was in the mid 160s, then that means the bottom of her range was probably 160, 161. So she scored 4 or 5 points lower. She says, not sure if it was testing anxiety or just the fact that it was my first time taking the test, which, what's the difference? I mean, you've taken a million practice tests, Amelia, and you're supposed to treat the official test like it's just another practice test. That's why we want to make sure that our practice test range is where we want it before we take the official test. You went into your official test thinking that the official test is something different, and you got a different result. Mm-hmm. You want to treat it like it's just another day, just another practice test. Don't give it too much respect. You obviously gave yourself test anxiety by building it up to be something different. She goes on and says, I'm ready to take August.
Are you?
Yeah. And also, what happened to June? I mean, this is why, like, what are you doing? And I mean, Amelia, if you're new, you haven't heard our advice before, I really am not beating you up, Amelia, but our advice is be happy with your range of practice test scores before you take your first official test. Then plan on taking the next official test, which for you was June. But now Amelia's like, no, I took it once in April, waited to get my score back, and now I'm not going to take June. Instead, I'm going to take August, which is months out. Why are you even deciding about the August test right now? The deadline to sign up for August is not until what? Probably June sometime, late June. You got a month before you need to decide whether you're going to take the August test. And you shouldn't have taken the April test if you weren't committed to also taking June. So that's your strategic error. Like, think about that. You're putting all the eggs in this one basket of April for what? Like, you could have taken the pressure off of April by signing up for June. Anyway, she says, I'm ready to take August, but I was wondering if you had any tips on how to improve from here on out. I'm having a hard time figuring out what I was doing wrong the first time around. I really want a 170, but
Yeah.
I'm feeling really down on myself and discouraged.
Well, Amelia, part of that discouragement is coming from the fact that you're comparing this 156 to your 170 as well, because you're considering like where you want to end up, and it feels so far away, and it's like you didn't have any business registering for April to begin with.
Yeah, you took a test wanting something that you were just not likely to get. You it was wishful thinking. I don't know why you thought it was a good idea to take the April test. I mean, I just don't like and there's tons of bad advice out there, right? People sign up for tests way in advance of when they actually should.
Yep.
They have external pressures, advisors, family, friends, whatever. What are you talking about? No, just go ahead and take it. It'll be good to get a first number on it'll be a good experience for you.
Mm-hmm.
No, it won't. It'll be a bad experience for you. This was a bad experience for Amelia because she wasn't actually ready. She had never scored, it sounds like, she had never scored a 170 on a practice test, but she really wants a 170. Well, then don't take the official test. You're just not likely to get something better on your official test than you've ever done on any of your practice. It's like saying, oh, I really want to shoot under par today in this tournament. I'm going to go out in this tournament. I'm going to shoot under par today. Okay. Have you ever shot under par in a practice round? Well, no.
I've never gotten close to shooting under par in a practice round.
or breaking 80 or breaking 90
Right,
or breaking
or whatever.
100 or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it is. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't care what your absolute level is. I care whether you are any kind of a credible case to do the thing that you're trying to do. You know, if you've never broken par before, then don't go play in the local US Open qualifier. You're
Mhm.
just not going to do it.
You're not
And
gonna have
it
a good
won't
time.
be a good experience. It'll
Yeah.
suck. It'll suck. You'll feel like shit. It'll be bad for your development as a player because you're putting yourself out of your league in a situation where you're just pretty much guaranteed to fail. And instead, you need to set yourself up for success. Keep doing practice tests, keep learning the maximum from every mistake you make. When you're happy with your practice test range, then sign up for the next official test and plan on taking it again and again and again until you have gotten an official score that matches your documented ability on your practice test scores.
Amelia, we say this not because we're trying to give you a hard time for this decision, but because we know, like, we watch students do this again and again and again. And every time they come back disappointed, upset, frustrated, feeling like like discouraged about taking this test. And let me give you the silver linings here real quick, Amelia.
Great.
You know what her email doesn't say, which it always says. It always says if it's the case. She doesn't say that the 156 is worse than her diagnostic. She doesn't tell me what her diagnostic is, but she doesn't say that's worse than my diagnostic. Nate, I read a lot of these emails. A lot of, if that happens, they tell me that.
Yeah.
So what that means, if I had to just guess, if I'm just pure speculation here, Amelia's probably had a diagnostic somewhere in the high 140s, low 150s, maybe lower, right? But she had a diagnostic that was lower. She's practice testing in the mid 160s. That's amazing improvement. That means you're doing it right. You're solving one question at a time. You are making progress. So the question, tips on how to improve from here on out, do exactly what you're doing. You're doing it right. Just don't sign up until you're ready. That's the key that you missed here, because you're studying properly. It seems like you're making the right progress. And here's the other thing that I'd add, Amelia, and this is something that I see students do not just on their official tests, but on their practice tests. My question for you is, when you get to a hard question, when you're doing a test, because it's, I gotta worry about the timing. Do you skip a hard question? Do you just guess and move on when you get stuck? Do you skip parallel reasoning questions because they're too long? Do you do things on the test that you don't do when you're drilling? If so, stop doing it, because that would to me explain the 156 as opposed to a 160. Right? That 4-point difference between her real range and what she scored. I want to know how many questions you skipped. Did you finish a section that you had no business finishing? Did you make
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Did you make it to section 4 on the reading comprehension, or the passage 4 on the reading comprehension section when you never have before? That's not a good thing, right?
No.
All those differences are what
Yeah.
contribute to scoring lower. You've got to just do the same thing
Yeah.
on a practice test, on a real test, as you do in your drilling.
For sure. Don't take the official test until you're happy with your practice test range. Treat the official test like it's just another practice test. How to improve from here? Same way you improve on your first day of LSAT study, which is you slow down, you read more accurately, more carefully, you let the test be easy. And then when you make a mistake, you treat it as this golden opportunity to learn something. You don't have to be disappointed. You don't have to be down on yourself, but you do have to take it seriously. Why is the right answer right? Why didn't I pick it? Why is the wrong answer wrong? Why did I pick it? Did I actually understand the record here? Did I understand the question they were asking me? Because you had to misunderstand one or more of those things in order to miss this question. That's where you're going to improve, is you're going to clean up those mistakes. And until you're solidly into the 170s, like Josh said, you do not have to worry about that fourth reading comprehension passage. You do not have to worry about that really nasty question 24 or whatever, where it was just a real nasty, a real difficult, whatever. You just don't have to worry about those ones because there's so much lower hanging fruit until you're, again, solidly into the 170s. In the mid 160s, yeah, you're doing a pretty good job of understanding most of it. But you really shouldn't be finishing the sections, because if you are, then that means you're just really skimming the surface on way too many questions. The best way for you to improve your score today and improve your future performance is to slow way down and just really start understanding more of what you're reading.
Thanks for writing in, Amelia. I know it was probably not. I know it wasn't the score you wanted to see, but you know, make sign up when you're ready. Keep on the right track, and you'll see it go up.
Yeah, just don't do the wishful thinking,
Don't do
Don't
it.
don't think that if your practice test range is still in the 160s when August rolls around, do not go sit for that August test with your fingers crossed for a 170.
You'll be disappointed again.
Yeah, it's just you're gonna then try for something different, something extra, and you're very likely to get surprised on the downside, not on the upside.
Yep.
Thanks, Amelia. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you would like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.